Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog, and a bit of an event, really. So I usually start it off with what number we're at. So let's have a look. It's year 3, blog 1. Year 3. Oh my God. But in legacy numbers, as I do all the time, it's blog 105. And today's date is 25th of February 2024. And so you'd think that that was renewal, and yes, to a certain extent it is. I've been thinking an awful lot, actually, more on reflection than I have of moving forward, and I think that's more to do with how my week has gone. But I did go back to the original recording, which actually wasn't a blog, it was an intro. February 26th, 2022. And I'd heard some bad news at work. I decided that I was going to do a video diary. It was sort of like a stuff it to work type thing, because work has always been an Achilles heel because you can't really talk about it too much. And you walk a tight line on what you can reveal. But on February 27th, the day after, came out blog 1. And I tried to think back, even though it was only 2 years, what was going through my mind. And I think it was a matter of bewilderment. Why am I here? Why is this happening to me? Why does so much bad luck occur? And I call it luck because I've always tried to do the best that I can, and always seems to be brick walls in front of me that I didn't think I deserved, to be quite honest. That's an emotion that comes across when I think back at that first blog. But we moved forward. I tried to bring some fun into the blog. I then tried to bring elements in that my niece and nephew would find beneficial to understand about me, what I buy, what makes me happy, what makes me sad. And all that time, things were going on, I started to bring elements of my family in, my mother, because she's a very strong woman and a huge part of my life. And I care for her very much. But it's in a conflict of me moving forward. And you can get sometimes quite depressed when you look back and you think of that things could be totally different. Like I was in Manchester and I lived for 7 years there, and I think to myself, what would it be like if I was still there? And I sometimes think of that because there were some happy parts. I bought a lovely house. And now I live in a single room. And I think to myself, is that what's depressing me? All sorts of things, you could reflect upon. But each day I get up and I think to myself, there's no good looking at the past, and you've got to move forward. And I dare say I've worn my heart on my sleeve a little bit, because I'm one of these people that don't ask for much, but I see good things happening to other people, and I don't understand why these things are not happening to me, and it gets you in a horrible loop. So all I can do really is reset every day. You know what I mean? And just go, it will be different tomorrow. It will be. But then health knocks me back a bit. But anyway, what's this week been like? It's been really negative, I have to say. Lots of health issues for me and my mother. My mother mostly. She's not very well at all at the moment. She's got stomach problems. I've done the best I can. I don't think she's eating properly. I do cook for her on occasion. Not a great deal. But I think I need to do a bit more in that retrospect. Because when I come in, I make her a cup of tea, you know, that sort of thing from work. And then sometimes I drop to sleep. And when I wake up, it's very close to her going to bed. So I don't know quite what she's been eating. And then when you find out that she's got stomach upset, you think to yourself, well, what did you eat? Are you eating well? So yeah, this sleep deprivation's I've got to knock it on the head. And that then comes to the doctor's problems. So yeah, I had a text message come through on, was it Wednesday or Thursday? And it was a pretty damning one. It turned round and said, we've been trying to contact you in regards to blood test that you are due for. Because you have not answered, we are now going to reduce your meds until you do. So I made a stance on this because that wasn't true. When I ordered my repeat prescription 2 weeks ago, I put in the notes down the bottom saying these medications are all authorised, and I recognise that I need to be in for a blood test, and I'll be booking that in the next couple of weeks. Then when I phoned to make sure that the prescription was ready, which it was, I said, I will be booking my blood pressure, my blood test. It's just that I need to be at work to look at the diary to see when it's convenient to do so. And so therefore you've got two types of communication, and you've got a text message that comes in that says they're going to reduce your meds because you've made no contact. So I decided to ask my manager if it was okay to me to make a phone call from work, because you're not really supposed to make phone calls from work because I'm in a probation office, So mobile phones, although you can carry them around, are work ones, and work ones, you're not supposed to make phone calls to doctor surgeries, shopping, all of that sort of stuff. It's supposed to be used to contact offenders, managers, that sort of stuff. I was on hold for 50 minutes, and then this lady came on, and got no problems with her. But you're hearing a message for 50 minutes that says, we do not accept violence in verbal or physical format in any form. If you have a problem, work with us to resolve these problems. And I heard that message for 50 minutes. And I finally got through to this lady, and she said, what would you like to speak about, Mr. Giles? What's the nature of your phone call? I said, well, first of all, I said, I'm most upset by the tone of your text message that I've got through from you today. She said, oh yeah. And I said, yeah, it basically says that I haven't contacted you about my blood test, and you're going to reduce my meds. Yes, I can see that, Mr. Giles. We've sent several texts to you. Said, have you noticed the two conversations that I've actually put in text form and in verbal form in regards to me collecting my prescription? I will be booking it shortly. Oh, we don't look at the text messages that go to the pharmacist, Mr. Giles. And I've got no note here of any phone call that you made to collect your medication. That probably went to the pharmacist as well. And I said, it doesn't matter. They're in your own surgery, and you don't talk to each other. Now, your text message has basically raised my blood pressure because I'm hypertensive. So there you are, sending me a message that says, we're reducing your meds. These meds that keep me alive, by the way. And a text message that says, I haven't contacted and you're going to reduce my meds. Well, add 10 years to my life. So I'm still sprightly, in my 60s. But you send this to somebody who's hypertensive with obvious problems with their heart and blood. And do you think that's going to raise their blood pressure, or do you think it's going to lower their blood pressure? And she said, yes, I can understand that as a problem, Mr. Giles. It's just that we do need to sort of like get people to come in. And I said, well, people try. But just look at your phone system. It's took me 50 minutes to get through to you. Now, my mother, who's in her 80s, phones you, and she has done, and she's deaf. She can't hear you. So there's this phone system that says press 1, press 2, and she has no idea what one to press. So I told her what to do. Press the hash symbol. It'll get you through to an operator at some point. They all use it. And then when she gets through to you, she's going, you will need to speak up, love, because I can't hear you. And ends up putting the phone down because she can't hear them. They don't speak up. They don't turn the volume up on their headsets in your reception, I don't think. So what are you doing about that? Because she'd like a hearing aid. And she went into a private clinic to get a hearing aid. And they said, you have to have a referral from your doctor. And yet she tries to speak to your doctors and you can't hear her. There you are. There's a problem. What are you going to do about that? And then she goes, yes, I can see that. It says, have you thought about doing complaints? Well, there's another thing, complaints. So I went in and made a complaint about not being able to get a COVID jab because my mum's not vaccinated and I'm a big person that wants boosters. So I was going in 3 months before Christmas to say, when am I going to be called up? And they said, you'll be contacted. And I went in then to get my prescription and I asked again, when is my call up? And they said, oh, we're still going through it, but at the moment we're doing the people that are vulnerable, in their 80s and so forth. I went, right, okay, well, I'll wait therefore. And I got fed up of waiting and went in at Christmas Eve and said, when am I going to get my call up? It's now getting ridiculous and I'm off for a week. So it'd be great if I can come in. We don't do it now. We've stopped. You have to go into a walk-in clinic. And I said, yeah, I've asked this twice of you and you said I was going to get a call up. Now you're saying I've got to go to a walk-in clinic. Now I've been to these online and these walk-in clinics are not in this town. They're miles away. I have to go to Oxford to actually get a jab. That you had the vaccination in this building literally a week or 2 ago. I've got sciatica in my back. I've got a bad knee. I have to then travel 20, 30 miles to get a vaccination. It's not possible. And I'll be going back to work. So that complaint did go through and they phoned me back and this nice lady found a place in my work where I work, so I travel to work once a week. And I thought, brilliant, thank you so much. You can drop my complaint now if hopefully everything all comes through. So, of course, the time came where I went to work that week. It was only literally about 5 days later. And I thought, I'll phone up this pharmacy just to make sure it's okay for me to come in at lunchtime. And they said, we haven't done a walk-in clinic for the vaccination for at least 2 weeks before Christmas. We stopped. So this woman gave me an address that was bogus, a place that she thought was doing vaccination, but didn't. So I then wrote another complaint, and that never got answered. And I'm not surprised because it said in the complaint, you've now got 2 weeks because the end of January is when the walk-in clinics stop for the country. I'm now in urgent need. And they never got back to me. So I flung that at this lady as well. And I said, so when it comes to complaints, you're not listening. And yet you've got a recorded message that says, work with us. I said, no wonder your surgery has got a bad reputation, because you say work with us, but you don't. You think you do, but you don't. You've got not doctors anymore, you've got locums. I can't see the same person. And when I can see that a person, I have to tell them over and over again my history, where all my notes are there. It's just that you only give them 5 minutes to read these notes before the next patient walks in. They haven't got time. I need to speak to somebody on a regular basis. My original doctor, who I had for 30 years of my life, knew what the name of our pet was. That's how much this person knew about me. And so you have a rapport. And that rapport means that if he told me something, I literally took it that was the truth. I wouldn't trust a locum. So she said she'd take the complaint and be back in touch, which is all that she could do. And I said, by the way, I have booked a blood test. Okay, so does that mean that my medication is back to normal? She said, as long as you keep that appointment, which basically is a pain in the arse. Do you know what I mean? You'd think that they'd turn around and say, yeah, you've contacted us, we have done bad, we'll put your medication back up. But she's put a thing there that says, as long as you keep this meeting. So you can see, not a great week. And then, of course, my friend Mainmeister asked me to check something for him on a site that we both are members of. And I found my password didn't work. I thought, that's strange. So I was trying to find out something for him, but couldn't. And then went and sent a message. You know, you got these forgotten password things, and you click on that. It says, enter your user ID and enter your email. And it comes up, success. You should get an email shortly, but do check your spam. So, of course, it could be one of 2 email addresses because I got hacked. So I sent it to both of them. You know, I filled it in twice. Haven't had an email back. Nothing. There's no way of contacting this people. It is a front end where you sign in, and if you get in, great. If you don't get in, you fill in a form and you wish that it will come back. If it doesn't come back, nothing. Lost it. That's where I'm at. So I contacted my friend who referred me. He's looking into it. He sent an email to them because he can get in, you see. Once you're in, you can send messages to the moderators. And he said he's put my case and hopefully that will sort it. And he noted that my account is not locked. So basically, the only problem is the password doesn't work. I just need it resetting. 2 days ago, that was nothing. So just before this, I tried again with everything that I knew, and it counts down 5, 4, 3, 2. Once you get to 1, you stop. After a day, it resets back to 5. And I've tried everything. I can't think what it is. No idea. And therefore, I'm locked out of that. And if you remember rightly, I got locked out of a lot of things when I got hacked. So I've lost a lot of sites that I rely on to keep my sort of like retro gaming hobby current. And I live in an environment where you hope that people will be able to, help you. But a lot of people do keep these websites to themselves. Oh, I'm a member of this and I can get everything. But no, you can't join it, unfortunately. You have to be referred and all of this sort of stuff. Or they just keep it to themselves. Don't bother mentioning it. And that's not a dig at my friends. It's just that I don't understand why we don't all share a commonality where if you know of a good film site, mention the film site. If you know of a good download site, mention that download site. If you know of a place where you can get busts from, like statues and comics at a better price, or is having a sale on at the moment. Tell us all. Why keep it to yourself? I'm one of these people that I'm very happy to tell anybody what I got. Oh, you want to know where I get my stuff? Yeah, I get it from here. Oh, you want to know, where I bought that from? Oh, I got it from here. And it's on sale at the moment. And sometimes I'm even forward enough to put it in Discord or a forum, but other people don't. And yeah, I'm not a person that's very forward at saying to my friends, can you tell me what you use? I think to myself that if they wanted me to know, they'd have told me. And I suppose this is where I consider myself weak. I should be a lot stronger than I am. I should be either stuff everybody and keep it to myself, or why promote other people if they don't promote you? Be hard. Just think of yourself. Do it for yourself. Do it for the things that you want to do it for. But the trouble is, I want to promote my friends. I think that they deserve a lot more. So again, a conflict of interests. Do you know what I mean? Even when I'm doing a live stream, I think to myself, don't conflict with somebody else. First of all, you're too small and you're not going to get the viewers. Secondly, why would you want to battle somebody for a position on something? So if I notice that somebody's doing something on a Wednesday, I'll do it on the Thursday. No problems to me. You know what I mean? I don't think a lot of people do things like that. I'm not saying that they don't, but I don't see a lot of it. Even this week I've seen a live premiere is going to be in this slot, and I'm going, oh bloody hell, typical, isn't it? That I waited 3 weeks to do a live stream, and now people are started to put stuff into that slot, and you rely that you're going to get a good lot of people in so that they can ask you questions. That's why it's called a live discussion, right? And you don't want to battle with favoritism, like, oh well, I've supported that channel more, so I'll watch that and I'll watch this one on a recap. Because if it's a discussion, it relies on people to ask you questions. Now the good news about it all is just not through self-promotion, but I did a live stream this week and it was absolutely wonderful. I did it with my friend Denny. We had some people come in. They all asked us questions. We debated over it. We came up with whether we thought it was good, bad, in a retrospective sort of way. Did the message get across? That sort of thing. And over it all, I think it did well. But I did notice that once the live stream was out, compared to the other live streams I've done where there's been a constant people watching it, this one's pitted out at just over 120. It's still early days, but I noticed that the numbers were still going up very, very early on, and the more you get to further away from it, the less people are inclined to go back to it. So I've got a funny feeling that this one will probably be the weakest in the number set. And that's not what we wanted. Denny and I, we want to talk about something and hope other people get enjoyment out of it. Maybe it's the subject matter. Yeah, we've already talked about it, and we're going to do a film one next. And then we're going to go back to doing a TV one. We looked at the comments, and I've got a couple of ideas for the TV one. Steve, thank you very much for your comment there. I've got a pretty good idea where I'm going to go, as long as Denny agrees. And that's pretty much really all I want to say about the start of my week. And it's a big long rant, but it's been a very negative week this week. And I want to start off the blog knowing that this year is going to be different. I'll change the format of this blog eventually when I want to. I tried to force myself last week. That's the wrong way to go. But things have got to change in many ways to make me feel it's worth doing. You know what I mean? And at the moment, I hear good things, that I'm a nice person and a personality, watch this, watch that, and all of that sort of stuff. Doesn't change one thing. Doesn't change one thing. So let's start off with the news. Let's get all this stuff out of the way, and then let's get to the important stuff, which is you guys. Don't get me wrong, it's you guys. So the news, and news again is a reflection. It's the war. And if anybody knows, I started this stream just around the start of the war. Okay. So this is what I read on the war, and it's all a reflective mood, and it's not good. It says, on the anniversary of the war, now in its third year, reports are on reflection. Last week's report of losing the city of Avdiivka, I can't pronounce that, I do apologise, continued with full control going to Russia around 2 days later. Ukraine reported that the loss was due to aid, i.e., at the start of the war, Ukraine soldiers had the ability to fire 300 rounds per day. Last week, this was set at 10 per soldier, as in set the soldiers up to defend only. Germany, America, and UK and others pledged to beef up the defence and to continue the Ukrainians to have hope. So yeah, here we go into the third year, and money starts coming into it, and aid and all of that sort of stuff, and all of the things that Britain has tried to do to put a stranglehold on important figures of Russia that work in this country, and all of that sort of stuff, to starve them, to put so much export duty on their stuff that nobody would buy it, has not worked. They still have, it seems very much like a never-ending pot of money. And so they continue to push forward, knowing they'll exhaust eventually Ukraine's pot of ammunition, tanks, money, and everything else. So yes, a sad week to report. All I want is for this war to end. And I'm hoping it'll be done under diplomatic means. I feel for the Ukrainians. They deserve their land, their property, their place on earth, not under duress like they are at the moment. So we move to the UK news, and as you know, I'm not going to go into depth with the UK news. It's just going to be singular lines. Maybe I'll have an opinion at the end of it. So what did we see? In the UK, the Prime Minister has pledged 311 million to bolster the artillery for the Ukrainians. That was yesterday. A UK woman who joined the Islamic State has lost her appeal to get citizenship back into the UK. If I remember rightly, this one goes back quite far. She left her family with a friend, went over to join the Islamic side of things underage. I think she was 16, or she was, very, very close to that. It didn't turn out like she wanted, and wanted to move back, but she had made her decision. And I think that's where the problem lies. You were of an adult orientated enough mind to know what you were doing. Then, of course, you've got to think, has she been brainwashed? Is she coming in as something else, and all of that sort of stuff? Anyway, she lost her appeal. The good news, I think, came out about the energy bills, which are going to fall by 12% in April. It may seem like a very small figure, because there is inflation to add to that, which means that you'll come away really with a reduced bill, but a drop in the ocean. But it is dropping in a big chunk, 12%, and it's the lowest we've seen in 2 years, which is a good sign. It's just a matter of during the summer now we'll be using the heat and everything in our houses less, so that probably be a good thing because we won't be buying so much fuel. But then we'll get back to winter, and I dare say things will go back up again. And that's the way I seem to see things happen. If something becomes popular or needed, they whack a great big price on top of it. Because get it while it's hot, you know what I mean? Not so yeah. I worry a little bit for my mother and myself with that. It is a big strain on us. So yeah. And that's it for I wrote down for the news. There's 3 bits there. And then the last one is a small rest in peace for somebody that you might not recognize as a name, but meant quite a lot to me in my childhood. And that was an actress called Pamela Salem, or Salem. She died on the 21st of February, aged 80 years. And the reason that she meant an awful lot to me is she was in a lot of shows that I used to watch, you know, Doctor Who, Blake Seven. Most importantly to me was Into the Labyrinth, where she played a wicked sort of like wizardress, you know, a witch called Belor, who kept denying these children an item called the Nidus. She had a famous catchphrase, "I deny you the Nidus," like this, and she'd throw the Nidus back through time and the kids would have to go looking for it in another time period. Great show. So yeah, she played Kara in Blake Seven. She played a countess in Tripods. She was in several roles in Doctor Who. She was in Robots of Death, Remembrance of the Daleks. She was several voiceovers, lots and lots of films. And the sad news is that she died at 80. I think it's of old age at the moment. I don't think that there is an illness involved, although surely it's always an illness that kills you off. It's always like your heart couldn't take it anymore. You had pneumonia, you had dementia, you had cancer, you had whatever. It's always something that stops your body from continuing to pump, you know, and move forward. So news will I just think what a sad day it was when I heard that. It hit me quite hard because it's not somebody that means an awful lot to a lot of people, but to me that person was in that show and was in lots of other shows and became sort of like a, oh, she's in this show now, you know, type thing when I was a kiddie. So yeah, not great. So we finished the news. We got that out of the way pretty quickly. So we'll move into the shout outs. As you know, I love this section. I love shouting out to you guys. You recognize that I need conversation, that I need something to read to get me through the week. Something that's out there thinking, oh, I thought about you today. Do you know what I mean? Because we've all got that natural need in us to be loved. We've all got that natural need to feel wanted. If you don't get regular communication, you lose that feel of being wanted and being loved. And for the most part, my life is just me and my mum. So yes, in some ways I put a reliancy on this, you know, to continue me going forward. But it's, I'm strong. I'll keep going forward. So big shout outs to these people that have contacted. Ian Hill the Ramblings, Gaming Since the 70s, Martroid, Seb's Place, Wee Bob Art, Denny, Jensen Bros Gaming, Colin Jones aka Ponder, and Stephen Taylor. And every single one of those, a big thank you, thumbs up and everything to you guys. You've watched my blog, you've left a comment, you've made me have a smile on my face when I recognise that you've tried to make contact with me. Absolutely brilliant. So we're going to move very, very quickly into then these comments because I don't want to keep you for too long. I do know that these blogs go on for quite some time, 2 hours. And I do know that you guys get great satisfaction out of it. And yeah, watch it in sections, watch it in bits. You know, to me, it's the important thing is that you get something out of it. If there's nothing there for you to watch, I understand. You know what I mean? To me, I'm a nosy neighbour. You know, it's like, oh, what's he doing? Why's he got that? Why's she got that? What's she doing? You know what I mean? I'm like that. So that's when you do your videos, some of these people that have got their own channels, I'm really being nosy, really, because it's like, what are you up to? What are you going to talk about? You know? So you're instantly in that mode of swallowing information. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I love. I love information. So let's start. We start off with Stephen Taylor. Okay, that's a new name to me. Hi, Dale Boy. Thanks for the live stream the other night. That was that Logan's Run, the TV series that I was mentioning about. That I did on Thursday at 7:30. You can still watch it on Rewind. I had watched the film version before, but to be honest, I never knew that there was a TV series until now. It's available for £10 to download the complete series, so I look forward to sitting down and watching it very soon. Your Vblogs always include a section about the Ukraine war. So with the 2-year anniversary happening yesterday, I thought I would base my question on that. It looks as though Russia has started to make progress with capturing new towns and with countries dragging their heels with giving the billions needed to help Ukraine. Can you see Ukraine losing the war? And what will it mean for the rest of the world? Yeah, it's a big question, isn't it? And it's one I think I curtail around by not getting involved too much. But if Russia did win, it would be a damning thing from what I can see. And it's possibly going to happen. But how the rest of the world will see it, it will probably shock. But Russia will then be starting a war because it will be the Warsaw Pact against NATO again, because the countries that would be after Ukraine would be Poland, Germany, Switzerland, all of that, border. And they've got they're part of NATO. And that's a totally different prospect. And that's guessing that Russia want to do that. They're apparently, to them, they want their land back, which was originally theirs, which is on the border of theirs. You get this feeling that it's a stepping stone, that Russia will try and then encroach on the rest. They'll see it as a win, that they're a power again, that they will extend that power and then become a dictatorship for the rest of the world. My thoughts are that there will be a diplomatic answer to it all. There has to be. I don't see any other answer. There'll be a lot of deaths up to that point. But if Russia wins, it'll be a war. Definitely. That's how I see it. And that's the only answer I can give, really. And we'll be back into the 80s again. Flung back into who's got the pressing of the nuclear button. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Hey, Stephen? I hope that's a good answer. Salute to you. Thank you so much for getting in contact. Brilliant that you watched the live show, and there's going to be some more. Hopefully you'll join those. Wee Bob Art. Thank you, Wee Bob, for contacting, by the way. You've managed to watch along this week as overtime at work has come to an end, at least for the moment. I did love Big Trouble in Little China, but it has aged badly. I did watch a recent movie called Finest Kind. that I quite enjoyed, but the reviews for the movie were not great. Anyway, I hope life is good. Question for the next time. Relating to badly reviewed movies. Can you name some movies that you love, but they have been panned by the critics? I've been asked that before, and I'm sure I give a different answer every time, you know. And it's because, I'll tell you why that is. I try not to think of the negatives too much. I try to think of the positives. And some of the stuff that I saw back in the past, I've rewatched and I've said, you know what, I was harsh with that. I didn't think of it from a point of view of the audience that wanted to watch it. And I think that's the big danger, I think, with critics, is you get a 50-year-old bloke looking at a children's animated cartoon and putting their 2 pennies in saying, oh, this is bloody awful. It's not for you. It's for kids. You've got to put yourself in kiddie mode. You know what I mean? And if you haven't got the skill set to do that, you know, then it's not worth anything. And so critics are influencers. And so I tried to go in to watch a movie with very little influence over me. I remember having a conversation with Rock Garden about The Exorcist, the new movie that came out last year. And he said it heard bad reports. I said, yeah, I've heard bad reports. And he said, yeah, but he said, just like me, I'm not going to read them. I'm going to make my own decision up. And I said, great, that's the best way to do it. Just like me, we're on the same page, I think. And we eventually both did get to watch it. And we eventually came to the conclusion it wasn't that bad. It all depends on what you were trying to get out of the film, whether you wanted more of the same. You know, The Exorcist is a big sort of like film to beat if you're trying to beat, you know, make it better. I think, why try to beat something? Just make an entertaining story that's good, that's on equal paring with it, you know? I can't believe that there isn't every director and every actor out there that wants to bring out a bad product. Some things are cash grabs, but you don't spend 6 months of your life or 3 months of your life filming for a piece of shit. Don't see it. I mean, look at it like this. I do go into work and sometimes I'm on auto control. You know, it's like, oh, I'm doing spreadsheets today. I'll do what I need to do to get through the day. That's what I'm paid for, etc., etc. And there are other days where I'm inspired. It's like, I'm going to get twice as much work done as yesterday. They've made me very happy today. I'm going to pull all the stops out. And I tell you what, I won't even finish on time today. I'll go an extra half hour and I'll get this done. And then, you know, etc., etc., right? And I've been there. I've done that for years and years and years and years and years, that frame of mind. And then I had all my career taken away from me. They could do it in a, like, snap of your finger. And that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But I'm still a person that knows that I'm very fortuitous at the money I earn for the job I do. And without that job, I wouldn't survive. I'd lose this house. I'd lose an awful lot. So I have to be thankful. So going back to the topic, putting yourself in the right mind of things. Let me think of a couple. The one that instantly comes to mind is Meteor, the film Meteor with Sean Connery. I remember seeing that at film club, loving it. And I saw it on TV and loved it. And I didn't really pay much attention to what people thought of it. So later on in life, you know, you get these books, you know, like this, Leonard Maltin's 2015 movie guide, which lists all the films and what reviews and, you know, and now we can go online, can't we, and go to Bad Tomatoes and all of that sort of stuff. And Meteor got 1.5 stars out of 5. And it said, a ho-hum, average, below average disaster film where there are much better disaster films out there, etc., etc. But what you have to understand, to me, it was in space. You had a great big massive rock. They gave it a name, Orpheus. It had a horrible sound effect that sounded so menacing you nearly shit your pants. Because I watched it at a certain age. And then all of these splinter rocks were coming in and you saw all these disasters going on. And in the end, we survived. We survived because we asked our neighbours to help us. And we blew the thing up. Where if we were all separate individuals and countries, that would never have happened and we'd be extinct. So it has a message. Yeah, Meteor, why did that get such a bad rep? And you look back at it now and your special effects are bad and all of that sort of stuff. But I love that film. I think it's great. It gets a panning. It still does now. Yeah. I'd mentioned Meteor. Then there are other films that deserve to have got panned, but they're not that bad. And you get great entertainment out of them. And if you ask the target audience, was it bad? They'd say no. So two of those are Super Mario Brothers with Bob Hoskins, with Bob Hoskins, isn't it? It is Hoskins, isn't it? And Howard the Duck, which had Leah Thompson in it. Yeah, I have to think of these names. I'm terrible with names. I do apologise if I rip those to bits. Crap films. Yeah. Spent an awful lot of money doing an animatronic duck. But was it like the comic? Sort of. Was Mario Brothers the movie a bit like the game? Sort of. What you got to understand is it's a live action thing. So what something is drawn can only really look similar if it's animated. So to go to live, you're talking about a talking duck. And it ain't going to look great. It's a talking duck. You know? You either put a voice over a proper duck, which looks stupid, right? Or you do a big walking animatronic duck with a voice around the rest of real world people. And these real world people have got to believe that you can talk to a duck. Yeah. Hard thing to do. And with Mario Brothers, it's all about, can you believe that there is a big sort of like turtle called Bowser and there's these weird creatures, Koopas and all that sort of stuff, and they're leaping from place to place. Can you really do that? No, not back then. Terrible film, really. But for a kiddie, it's like, wow, they're in my world. Look, I can see what Mario looks like. He's got a mustache and everything. Do you know what I mean? So again, not a bad film if you look at it in the context of who it's for. Showgirls comes to mind. Yes. Paul Verhoeven. Now, slammed as being the worst film ever made. Bit harsh. The thing I will say about it is if you look, there's a story. And there's a story that needs to be talked about. There's been lots of story about Vegas, and it's all generally masculine. Gangsters, gambling, all of that sort of stuff. And when you look at Vegas, the women, it's all about showgirls, prostitution, mothers, single mothers, living out of trailer parks. Yeah. So to tell a story about Vegas, which is a greed city, and a young woman trying to be a dancer, and it's erotic dancing, let's get it right, means that there is a lot of titillation in it. But there's a story. You have to look for the story, but there's a story. And from that point of view, it's harshly treated. So I'm going to throw Showgirls in there. And the last one, I'm surprised myself that I've put in and said that I like it, but it's a guilty pleasure, really. And that is He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And I'll tell you why. Nothing like the cartoon. Then again, you never would do by the company that made it. And the distributors. I think it was Canon Cinemas that distributed it over here. The thing I liked about it is that there was this musical instrument. It looked like a great big massive sort of like screwdriver-y type thing that you played like a saxophone, and it had this like tuning forks that sort of went round, and it had a light show when you played it. And I thought, wow, what a great idea that is. But that's not He-Man. He-Man is about battling Skeletor and all of this. Earth is in the middle of a conflict because this musical instrument, which, by the way, is so powerful, everybody wants it. It can, like, destroy the whole thread of the universe or something. And you have He-Man to the rescue. And, yeah, it's nonsense. And it's nothing like the cartoon. And I think even kiddies probably went, that's not He-Man I know. But I have to look at it and go, is there some good bits in it? And there is. The music is great. I think the soundtrack's not bad. For the money they spent on it, the effects are not bad, because literally it was done on a 50 pence done on a 50 pence budget virtually. You've got a couple of up and coming stars that came out of that. So there wasn't just Dolph Lundgren in there. There was Courtney Cox for a start. And it's a fun film. If you empty your brain and just watch it for the story that it is, it's fun. It's got so many low points in it that you can't put it in the good category, but it can be put in that it's so bad it's good. Do you know what I mean? It's like that, So I'm going to throw that in, and I hope that gives you a really comprehensive answer. Thank you very much, Bob. I think you deserved a comprehensive answer because you always contact each week, and maybe I've thrown in a few there that you might now probably want to go and have a look and see if they really were that bad. So we'll move on, and that's my salute to you, Bob. Thank you so much. And I've just took a swig because I've just looked who's actually writing the next one. And that's my good friend now. I consider him my friend now. Ian Hill, The Ramblings, who's got his own YouTube channel. And he's just reached 700 subscribers. Great. Please go and sub him. Please go and watch his stuff. Nice guy, lovely guy. And you'll see this when I read out his message, because the message is bound sure to be full of things about him and things about me that he's liked and all of that sort of stuff. So, very, very open guy. So, here we go. We got, hi, Delboy. As always, I enjoyed your blog. I always look forward to watching it on Sunday evening. I saw your comment on Scott's live about, Scott's live about your mum. Hope she gets better soon. My thoughts are with you both. Yeah, I try to go to as many of your channels as possible, but sometimes you can't make it, and my mother wasn't very well on Friday. So I spent my time with her. So it's very difficult to get your phone out, while you're tending to your mum, and she wants to watch Coronation Street and that sort of stuff. But I do my best. It's been a mixed week for me, yet saying that, it's overall been satisfying. The negative side is all week the pain has returned to my right foot, and it seems to love visiting me when I've got into bed. Yeah, when you take the weight off your feet. Yeah, I have that. So this week, though, I felt tired. I couldn't sleep well. I kept waking up. When I was downstairs, I ended up nodding off, and the pain seemed to have given up bothering me. Then later on the day, it would remind me it was still there. Yeah, kicks you up the arse, doesn't it? The real good part of the week was getting a free disc CD box set of the Old Grey Whistle Test. Started to watch this show in 1972 and was my musical education. Seeing artists and groups you could never see on Top of the Pops, they would be playing tracks from their albums. How I loved this show. It went on into the 80s. Whispering Bob Harris was the presenter then, and Anne Nightingale, who sadly recently passed away. Then a few more lesser names for a short time before it got cancelled. Jules Holland described how, without the influence of this show, his series in the 90s would not have happened on the BBC. What I loved about this box set was the third disc was of some actual live performances. That was a nice touch. I've got the free disc release they issued. They have such a rich musical archive. Though, of course, typical of the BBC, they have lost or wiped some shows. However, I was excited listening to some great performances and brought back some treasured memories. To top it all, it was another Music Magpie bargain. By heck, you can't beat a bargain. I was also pleased to reach over 700 subscribers. I feel so humble that some people watch a Yorkshire man rambling on. My son encouraged me to do it over 2.5 years ago. I've loved finding this community. It helped me find a purpose after the grief of losing my wife and just feeling physically and mentally exhausted. I loved your stream with Denny. You both work well together. It was an education for me because I'd only ever seen the film. I'm looking forward to the next one and many more to come. Revenge is a film I enjoy. I was lucky enough to get the collector's edition. I sometimes wish they would increase the numbers they produced, which might stop these on eBay scalping and charging inflated prices, or perhaps if they sell out, do a second run. It seems fairer to collectors. Now, one element we get in sci-fi is alternative versions of characters. Now, my question this week is, if you could create an alternative version of yourself, what would make it very different from you now, yet we could still in appearance see it was you? Best wishes and have a right grand time. Ooh, that's a toughie. First of all, thank you so much for the lovely text that you had in there. I agree. The Old Grey Whistle Test, I used to watch that on occasion. Didn't watch it religiously. I think it was probably more because it was on late at night and I was watching other things. So Top of the Pops would be on, in the normal sort of like 7:30 slot, 7:25, that sort of thing. And by 9 or so o'clock, I hadn't thought about continuing my music experience to watch the Old Grey Whistle Test. I'd be more interested in whether Starsky and Hutch was coming on after the news or something, So there were some times where I didn't. I mean, it's not something I definitely watched religiously every week. I can tell you that now. And when it comes to the BBC purging, yeah, they've learnt their lesson. We're in a different era now where we can store things digitally in such small spaces. I remember Mainmeister constantly goes on about how wonderful little memory cards are. That something that's no bigger than your thumbnail can store what's on your hard drive right now. 512 gig, 1 terabyte cards. And it is a marvel. So yeah, totally agree with that. When it comes to your question, it's a very difficult one for me because the thing I don't like about me is actually my appearance, and yet you say, what would you change that's different to what you are now, yet we could still in appearance see it was you? Because there's a lot of things about my appearance that I don't like, and it's those things that I think have held me back. People see a fat person, so they bully them. They see a person with glasses, and they take the mickey out of that. etc., etc., etc. And I'm not big on alternative reality for myself. You know, like, what would I change about me? Oh, yeah, I'd love to be William Shatner for a day or something. I'd like to look like him, be him, etc., etc. No, don't have those sort of things. But I'm a generous person that having more money wouldn't change. I'd still buy everybody everything. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm a people pleaser. It's in my nature. So, you know, there's no real good answer to you on that one, Ian, because I don't like my nose, I don't like my forehead, I don't like my hair, I don't like my weight, and all of those are appearance related. And it doesn't matter how many people will turn around and say, you got to love yourself. I can't. I've changed my appearance more times than Batman's changed into his bat costume. I've worn suits, I've worn t-shirts, trainers, shorts, tracksuits, waistcoats, ties, all sorts. When I've lost weight, you know, and I thought that I've looked really, really good. Obviously not. Went out that night, didn't make any blind bit of difference. So I'm going to turn around and say I haven't really got a good answer for you there. It's a very interesting question. I'll reverse that to you. I mean, you're a very nice, intelligent person, very generous. You have a YouTube channel where you obviously respect the people that watch you. So what would you change? Something about your face? Body? If it is, you're changing your appearance. I won't recognise you. So yeah, you answer that one. Miserable sod. And with that, with tongue in cheek, I move on. And we get to, oh my God, I've got to take a big swig. It's Denny. One after the other. My God, hang on. God. Right. Denny starts off with, hey, mate. Well, another live stream under our belt and another great night with friends who joined us Thursday evening. My dad confirmed we did go to see Logan's Run when I was young, but couldn't remember the certification. So the next one goes into planning very soon. Look forward to that. Great chat we had later. Where did the time go? Yeah, we spoke for an hour and a half afterwards. My God. So went to bed and then had to get up early the next day because it was my car's MOT. Should have mentioned that at the beginning, by the way. I had my car MOT, passed. The inspection light was on for oil, so I had the oil changed. Total price with the inspection light switch off, oil change, and the MOT was £130, £135. So the MOT is 45 quid, so you can see how much the oil change was. I don't mind that. There's an oil filter, there's the draining of the oil. It takes ages for the oil to drain out. You're paid by the hour, these mechanics. So this is where my dad always used to save money. He was a mechanic, you see. So he used to be able to drive his car onto these two metal ramps that we had. So that the wheels were up there. So with the car then tilted down, he could take the oil filter off first of all, and then also drain the oil through the sump. I don't know where those ramps are now. I think we got rid of them. You get to a certain age where going underneath cars, it's not easy anymore. So you really do need these garages with their lifts, lifting your car up to do it. Yeah. You continue. God, I can't stand Formula One. My folks drive me absolutely crazy with it, if you pardon my pun. drives me round the bend. Yeah, it's not for everybody. And that's because I talked about the Red Bull principle. So, yeah. You mentioned about getting stuff done for YouTube and finding it difficult. It's hard, isn't it, when you want to do something, but you're either not in the mood, have jobs to do, or just too damn tired. I had a week off and barely touched my Whizball video, though emulation was giving me a hard time. Thanks for answering my question on rip-off films. Two spring to mind, based on The Abyss, Leviathan, and Deep Star 6. Yeah. It was an interesting question. Thanks for that, Denny, last week, and I have to agree. The instrument you were thinking of with sci-fi sound was the theremin. Yeah, I thought pheromone, which is obviously just a drug, a chemical. It's in our bloodstream. Track dogs and that. Great question from Ian. That's who we've just been talking about. Playing straight roles from comedy. Steve Coogan did an excellent job of Stan Laurel, ironically about comedy, and Norman Wisdom did some straight parts, I believe. Yes, he did. In the later part of his life, he was in a hospital ward, I believe, that he won a BAFTA for. Still yet to watch the video about Nightmare, but the channel that's on has done some great series. Check them out. Yeah, and you know what? Nightmare has started to get about a bit, really, because it was even brought up in Retro this week. I'll talk about it a bit later on. Enshrouded you're playing looks like Guild Wars. Wish I had the time to play it. It's more like Valheim, to be quite honest. But yeah, you're not far wrong. I probably got attracted to it for the same reasons as I did for Guild Wars. I love Guild Wars. I wish I could go back to it now without knowing that it'd be such a daunting task to do it, and I would run out of time and still wouldn't move forward that much to make it worth my while. I think my Guild Wars days have come to an end, but I'm not going to say never because it's still installed. Both of them, Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2. Right, question for this week. Nicholas Hammond, who we spoke about in our Logan's Run live stream, did a 1970s version of Spider-Man for CBS in 1977, as you well know. Yeah, and you do know, I know as well. What, in your honest opinion, worked and didn't work about the production? Oh, my God. That's so well documented. I'm surprised it's a question, but a lot of people want Spider-Man, the TV series from 1977, on Blu-ray. And hopefully it will happen in my lifetime, but I don't hold my breath. You can't even get it on DVD unless you look on bootleg, and it was only released with certain episodes put onto VHS, where they joined them together to make a movie. In fact, that's how it was introduced in this country. Spider-Man was joining the pilot and episode 1 together to make one film and then show it back to back with the Hulk, which also was a TV series. What worked? Well, I think Nicholas Hammond, for the most part, got Peter Parker right. You got to remember, Spider-Man is a tragic tale of a boy who loses his uncle and has already lost his parents. And he lost his uncle because of things that he could have changed but didn't. Which is where the saying, with great power comes great responsibility. Because when Peter Parker got the spider powers, he was an arsehole. Oh, how much money am I going to be able to make here? Oh, I could become a criminal and nobody will be able to stop me. Or, other things that were mentioned. So all I can say about it is that I think Nicholas Hammond did a very good Peter Parker, but he did a pretty rubbishy Spider-Man. But he did a rubbishy Spider-Man because the special effects weren't there. didn't have the money. Stan Lee hated the show. He said the Japanese have got a better understanding of Spider-Man than our own American audience. And he wasn't far wrong. I mean, Spider-Man in Japan ran twice or three times as many episodes as the American one. It's full of fight sequences, robots, all of that sort of stuff, which I don't like. It takes you beyond what Spider-Man is. But for them, it works. And Peter Parker will always be the heart of the show. So if you don't get that character right, you'll never get Spider-Man right. But Spider-Man is a very effects-ridden show. Getting people to climb up walls and all that sort of stuff is difficult. So that's that. Thank you very much for your question, Denny. Brilliant. Now, before I move on, I'm just going to get a splash of water. So I won't keep you a moment. Thanks for bearing with me. Hopefully that wasn't a bad jump cut. I pressed the wrong button at first. We just finished with Denny. And I just want to say salute to you, sir. Thank you very much for making such a pleasurable live broadcast the other night, and for being my friend. We talked for hours afterwards about some of my week, which was not a great week. It interfered with an awful lot of things. I sort of like go in on myself and don't talk to people. I shy away from Discord and so forth because I don't want my negativity to interfere. So another thing that I need to sort of like change about my personality, another one to add for an earlier question that we had. Definitely need to harden up, I think, a little bit. So you ended with that. Thanks, mate. Say hello to your mum for me, and you know for definite that I will. And so moving on, we've got gaming since the 70s. That's my mate Steve. My mate Steve, salute to you, sir. And you bastard. No, I haven't done that for a long time, have we, Steve? And he goes, hi, Dale. Sorry for missing a couple of your blogs. I've been in a really bad way recently and wasn't even up to watching YouTube. I'm slowly getting better and I hope to be back to normal in a while. I just wanted you to know I'm still around and not ignoring you. But until next time, I'll leave you with a question. And that is, of all the 80s computers that failed and flopped, which one of them would have you would have liked to have seen to be a success, and why? Take care, my friend, and love to your mum. Steve, it's just wonderful to know that you're okay. I sent several messages to you because I hadn't seen anything being written, and you answered back. I understood. You needed some time. You are missed. I miss you like mad. My God, you're a stay point when you're bringing your stuff out, and I know it's going to take some time to recoup. I know you're missing your Mr. device. You've got rid of your handheld console that allows you to play Steam stuff. It's not as fun playing on a PC. Totally get that. We all work in different ways. I can't imagine me playing Steam on a handheld, but I have done, and it works. And I'm sure I would get round to loving it. I play my Steam stuff on my PC and get great enjoyment from that. I find a little bit like work mode. When I'm at work, if I leave my house and I go to work, I feel like I'm in the mood to work. And when I'm at home, I have distractions where I could be watching TV and they think I'm working and all that sort of stuff. Or I think that that's what they might be thinking that I'm doing because I haven't done as much output as somebody else, which could be actually to do with the fact that I didn't know how to do it and it took me time to work it out. So yeah, a lot of negativity points to working at home as well as the positives. And it's the same with computing, where I'm setting my ways now a little bit in playing games in a certain way. But I love my tech and I give everything a chance. And if I had the money, I'd buy everything. Tech, oh my God, I might as well just own a shop. I'd be in my element. I'm pretty sure Colin would probably say that as well, actually. He's a very much of a tech head and a very, very intelligent guy that is open to all sorts of different ways to get a result that he wants, and he is willing to take a chance on something that's not mainstream. That's the way to be. You know, back in the day, I saw Tomorrow's World hook a kettle up to a computer so the computer could make a cup of tea. Forward thinking like that, we don't do much anymore. It's like, well, what's the point in that? There's a tea's made. Don't need a computer in that for that. Just need a clock and a sensor and a switch. Hey, presto. But it wasn't to move us forward, but it was to prove it could be done. And some things from that could go on to something else, like in a space station or something. You know, you got to think outside the box. Your question. Yes, 80s computers. I'm going to talk about a device that was doomed to fail, but I wanted it badly. And I wanted it badly because it looked great. Nothing to do with whether it was technically above everything else. And that was the Memotech MTX 512. Yeah, I had to write that one down because I couldn't remember what model it was, but I knew it was Memotech. It was a lush aluminium black metal computer. So we're talking like a really sturdy build. And it looked gorgeous. The keyboard looked great. The device looked great. In many ways, it reminded me of a Commodore 64, which was plastic. Because it was like a bread bin, just like the Commodore 64 was. It was like a wedge of metal with a keyboard on top. You know what I mean? Later on, I found out that it was the Memotech MTX 512 that was used in the film Weird Science. And this computer managed to create the woman, Kelly LeBrock. Now, if any computer can do that, I'd want it. That's my answer to that one, just for the looks. And you got to remember that my background, I owned and had a number of computers because I was given them to repair. Not given them, they were traded in where my sister was sort of working, and I fixed them and then sold them and bought what I wanted. You know, so I had an Oric. I had an Oric Atmos, an Oric 1, a Dragon 32. I had a number of those. I had an MX1, yeah. Most of the others I bought: ZX80, 81, VIC-20, Commodore 64, Spectrum. The only one I don't remember whether I bought it or whether I repaired it was an Amstrad CPC 464. The Spectrum and the Amstrad CPC 464 I had for the limited amount of time, like a couple of months. Sold them to get things like disk drives for my Commodore 64 or a tape deck or whatever it was. Didn't care how much I sold it for as long as I had the money to buy what I needed to. And it had to be new as well. So, yeah. The Memotech comes to mind. Another one that comes to mind for a totally different reason, and I'm glad it didn't happen really, is the ColecoAtom. Now, I knew of the ColecoVision. I had a ColecoVision. It was a great console. And the idea of having a computer that used the hardware of the ColecoVision was great. The thing that came to mind with that was, if you knew that these people made the games with software and the hardware for it was in a computer that you could then program, you could write those games yourself. That was in my mindset. The Coleco Adam, though, too expensive, and if I remember rightly, prone to failure. They sent more back to be repaired than they did proper units that were now totally built the right way, if you see what I mean. So it killed the company. You know, the Coleco Adam. It basically, that plus the industry, because it's an American product. So yeah. And if there was one thing that didn't fail but didn't do well that I wished had continued its development, it's the old Commodore SX64, which I had. Now, the Commodore SX64, the one I got, was given to me. But it was an American model. That thing weighed a ton, but it was a portable Commodore 64. Think about it. Back in the day, you could carry this thing around like a ghetto blaster with a handle. And you set it up, and you had a disk drive and a Commodore 64 and a 5-inch screen. Proper CRT thing as well. We're not talking LCD. This thing weighed a ton. And you could carry it around. Because I remember going around my mates, taking my Commodore 64 with me. And you had to carry that and the disc drive and the joysticks and some games and all of that sort of stuff. And you needed 2 other people to carry the stuff into the house with you. You know, like, Dad, can you carry the disc drive while I carry the computer? And I got the games in a bag here. Look, no, we'll go in. Because there was all the power supplies to them and everything, right? So it didn't sell in numbers. And I'd love them to make it into a form factor like a little bit like the Olivetti, which failed as well. More like a laptop type thing. But we're talking an age where that wasn't possible. Not that I know of. And so this was Commodore at the height of its give people what they want, but the price was wrong. And the wrong time. It needed another developer, I think, that looked at it as differently than a ghetto blaster type device. You know, a big carry handle. It looked very much like you were carrying around a big radio tape deck TV thing of that period. You know, only it weighed a ton. Saw one again recently at the Zap event last year. Brought back such happy memories. Even though I had it for just a short period of time. Obviously, the more you put into something like that, the more it's likely to fail. It did have a high failure point, I think. How the hell you were going to put 2 disk drives in that thing, I don't know. I had a bay for it. But how heavy would that have been? You'd have had to have been bloody Arnold Schwarzenegger to carry it. So, yeah, I think those ones come to mind, Steve. I hope that's given you a really good answer. Thank you so much. That's a brilliant question. That's made me think happily of computers that I haven't really thought of in quite some time. So we move now to Jensen Bros Gaming. Another one not quite come across. Good to know your mum is doing well and that your tooth isn't hurting as bad as it has been recently. Yeah, my tooth has never felt bad. I just need to get it sorted. And again, still on the waiting list. But I clean it twice a day. And I mouthwash every night, doing the best I can. I laughed so hard at the Three Amigos film. Been a while since I'd seen that. I see what you mean with Big Trouble in Little China, as the last time I watched it, which was a few months back ago, I didn't really get into it. I will always love the thing, They Live and Escape from New York, the most. And that's what I was sort of like trying to get across was John Carpenter did Big Trouble in Little China before They Live. So it was sort of like a return to form. But you'll never beat the early stuff. The Thing, Christine, Halloween, you know, the big hitters, you know, The Thing. Oh, I mean, those to me were quintessential Carpenter, you know. I've never seen a single episode of Logan's Run, so maybe that is something I will pick up later on. But I've got a question for you. Obviously, you're a Spider-Man fan. Yeah, go figure. But are you looking forward to seeing the Madam Web film? And will you watch the new X-Men 97 cartoon when it comes out? Answer to that is a yes, no to the first one and a yes to the second. Madam Web, I don't like Sony trying to build a Spider-Man universe in the same way that Marvel Cinematic Universe did. There are enough characters and so forth to do it, but Marvel, who parts still own an awful lot of the product, so many caveats in the contract for that, probably won't allow you to have Spider-Man involved in Madam Web in the same way that they won't have Spider-Man involved in the Venom films and the film that you were trying to make called Craven and Morbius that came out a couple of years ago. From that point of view, they're separate things and therefore they don't really work, because the one thing that a Spider-Man fan wants to see is Spider-Man involved in there somewhere, and he's not there. So Madam Web is an intriguing one, because Madam Web to me was a character that came out in 1982, drawn by John Romita Jr., not Senior, and was a telekinetic mind-reading person that was hooked up to a life support machine that looked like a spider's web, hence the name Madam Web. They'll have drastically changed it for the film. They'll incorporate Spider-Woman in it somewhere, Silk in it somewhere. These are all lady characters, to make a film around some sort of plot that works for Madam Web. Madam Web now is different. Madam Web was an old lady and I think passed on her powers to a younger lady, if I remember rightly. I'm having to think now because the newer stories are quite convoluted. So how the film's going to do that, I'm not sure. So am I looking forward to it? Yeah, but have I heard what the critics have said? Yeah, and they hate it. Now, I've already talked about critics and I won't take too much into what they're saying, but I've seen Sony of old, what they've done with skirting around the Spider-Man universe, and they've not succeeded very well. So I've got trepidation about it. The X-Men 97 cartoon, of course, because I'm not just Spider-Man, it's Marvel. And of course, I read the X-Men when it was the original lineup, you know, the Beast, Angel, Miss Marvel, Professor X, you know, going beyond, you know, all the other characters which came out later, Wolverine, Storm, you know. So you have to look at these things in context. That there is a big history with X-Men. At one point, it was the leading comic because of its artistry and story. Chris Claremont did an absolute fantastic job. You know, Days of Futures Past, which we've already had the movie of, and so forth. So, you know, the cartoon, it died early. It did 5 seasons, just like the Spider-Man 90s cartoon. So having it come back, great. I hope they do the same with Spider-Man. I've heard that they are, but we'll see. P.S. Keep up the good work, buddy. And also P.S. Last time I commented was under my old name, Bonsai Master. Oh, right now. Yeah, recognised now. But using my retro gaming one now. That's fantastic, matey. Look, if you've got a channel, I'll have a look for it. I'll definitely go and watch it. You know me, I love to promote people's stuff. I'll check that out and see whether you've done some stuff. Other people, Jensen Bros Gaming, have a look for that yourself. I'll be doing it. And We've got Martroid. My mate Martroid, brilliant. Hi Del, brilliant blog as always. I agree that Pico 8 thing Al showed was pretty cool. It is, very much. And I think he's doing a stream tonight on it. Watch that space. The games look lovely, and I will have to get it at some stage, especially at the price that it is. Yes, because it's a piece of software. You buy it, it's $15, I think. Then everything game-wise, free. I mean, you can't say fairer than that. £15, all the games, go knock yourself out. Plus, it gives you the programming language to write your own, a graphic editor to do your own graphics, a sound editor to do your own sound. What more can you ask for? And all you really need is the hardware platform to put it on. It works on phone, Android, Pi, PC, plenty of places. So definitely a great thing. There was a thing before the Pico 8. I think it was a voxel generated one where it looked very much like, if you know what voxels are, building blocks in 3D. But of course, it stopped development, and therefore there's very little for you to do on that. But you can make some little cutesy role-playing game things with it, I believe. Am I right in describing it as a virtual console or indeed a software environment? You are a dead right, software environment. It's in software, you've got to imagine that there's no computer, right? They've written a computer in the programming language. So there it is, an interface with a language there, a graphic editor, a sound editor, and you can port this across to what hardware you want, right? So it's sort of like the computer you would have loved to have had in the 80s with this decade's oomph. So all the particle effects that you could never have done very well on a Commodore 64 are at your fingertips. So of course you've got a small amount of memory that you can rewrite the arcade games, Diddy Kong, Robotron, Scramble, Defender, etc., all at your fingertips. And people have done that, and they've added these particle effects and more colours and smoother scrolling and all that sort of stuff to it. And it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And the memory it uses, I mean, Christ, you could download these games and they're like 1 to 8K in size. Then we're talking, a quarter or a sixth of the Commodore 64's RAM. And yet you've got a game that surpasses those. So yeah, brilliant. Just bear with me because it's changed its thing here. And I think the last comment, I'm just checking, I do apologise for this, is Seb's place. Oh, well, last but not least, what can we say about Seb is you've got to watch his channel. It's very, very much gloss and very informative. It's the production values are great. He's put, hi Del, fair comment about the SNES episodes versus listing by alphabet. The problem I have is that when I get to the letter S and T, these will be broken down into multiple videos, as there are so many blimming games called Super something. So episodes made more sense. When I've played them all and finished the videos, I'll be stitching them all together under one video with every single game in it, with an alphabet chapter, which should help which will help going back and looking later on. Brilliant idea. I do know that your video will probably go over 3 hours. It wouldn't make that unwieldy, but all I was actually getting at is that you don't change the title of your episode. It's just that you put in the description, this video covers the letters A to B. This just covers the word super, etc., because when you do a search in YouTube, people will put in SNES games beginning with super, and if it's in your description, it will find it. it doesn't just look for the title. So all I was getting at is that although you're up to episode 7, you could go back over those 7 and just put in the description, this video covers 8 or whatever, you know, because then when you search, it'll come up. That was my idea. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. And I really look forward to you concluding it, because I think the one thing is that a lot of people start something off and don't finish it. I know I'm guilty of that. I mean, I started something off the 8-bit years and I did about 10, 11 videos, didn't do any more. You know, and so I understand it's so difficult to go back once you stop. So keep going, please. Don't want that to end. You continue with your great, it was a great vlog as always. The Steve Wright news hit me harder than I thought. I wasn't always a fan, but to think we won't hear his instantly recognizable voice again makes me very sad indeed. Yes, it does. Because there are some people that have got those voices. Kenny Everett had one. I missed him when he died. Oh, God. I listened to him on the radio. He had his own TV program. He did his skits. Infectious. You know, we'll never see the likes of him again. And, you know, that's the same for anybody, really. But Steve Wright, yeah, I equaled sort of like him. I thought he was the follow-on to Kenny Everett, really, to be quite honest. And that's the end of the comments, guys, I think. I do apologise if I've missed one, but I'm double-checking and Oh, there is one more. Sorry, Colin. How can I forget Colin? I do apologise, Colin. Here we go. You mentioned, I used to respect Harry. Shame he's shown his true colours. Don't deserve that respect. I used to use a KVM, almost hit him with a hammer. Yeah, we were talking about KVM switches. They're not for everybody. They have their quirks and problems, specifically with servers. I had no end of problems with KVM switches with servers. For me, I'd rather go down the route of what I've done, and it's a matter of when I run out of space, you've got to. But I don't knock them too much because they've got a purpose and they're coming on in leaps and bounds. You know, the lag is going, the switching between devices is virtually non-existent these days. Because when I was using them, they were all serial port. They'd moved to USB ports, you know, and at a certain point. But now with USB-C and all that sort of stuff, I'm sure we're laughing now with those KVM switches. These days, I use a program called Synergy, which allows control of many computers from the one keyboard and mouse, no monitor switching. No, so it's software switching with pressing a function key or something. Regarding dodgy links, even I'm wary of them. Linux, while less vulnerable, isn't bulletproof by any means, so I still take care. The Amiga demo was in response to DJ Hoffman showing it on his channel and wondering how it was on a PyStorm, so I did, and it's faster than his 6860. Yeah, will be. My question: we've just had some significant changes to our recycling, which are quite the pain in the arse. Yes, I saw your blog. Oh, sounded mental. What recycling procedures do you have where you live? Well, we do an awful lot here. We've got 3 bins and a caddy. So we've got a brown bin for garden waste. We've got a blue bin for normal stuff. And what's the other one? Grey. Got a blue, brown, green. Yeah. So the green one is recycling, I think. Yes. But it doesn't allow glass. And then we've got a small caddy one, which is for food waste. Now that means that I recycle all the cardboard and paper into one. I put the normal rubbish in the other. I put the garden cuttings and everything in the garden one. Don't really use the food waste one much because we don't buy things like roast chickens and put the husks of the roast chickens into that. The cats would be all around it anyway. Rats and all that sort of stuff. But the bottle thing is a bit of a hindrance for me because my mum starts to like drinking Prosecco, and I buy her a couple of bottles of that each week as a prezi. And the bottles I have to get rid of at the Sainsbury's bottle dispenser. So I have to purposely carry a box of these in the back of the car, drive round and chuck them through the holes, so that could be a bit of a headache. But other than that, recycling is, I think, the same for most of the country. I know it's not for you. My God, you've got recycling rucksacks from what you were telling me now that they started to introduce. I think we've got the same problems as everywhere else when it comes to the binmen. They come around and collect the garden waste every 2 weeks, the recycling once every 2 weeks, the normal bins every week, etc. They could come around a little bit. This 2 week bit sometimes isn't enough, especially in the summer, where I mow the lawn 3 times in that 2 weeks, and get rid of all the weeds and so forth. And so, when you're living in the sticks a little bit, like I am, the cuttings could be, a pain if you have to wait 2 weeks. I've started to do some recycling now of my own. I've got a big canister now at the bottom of our garden that you put the cuttings in. It's got 2 drawers underneath it, and you put some just a little chemical aid over the top, and it decomposes and it turns into like sludge, and then you put that on your garden, and you dig it into the earth, and it fertilizes it. So I thought I needed to do that because of the way that the bin was filling up with the garden cuttings. Atrocious. And that definitely is the last of that. Salute to you, sir. Thank you so much. Please sub Colin. He did his vlog this week. Brilliant. He's found his marbles. There's just a little pitch into his blog this week. So we move on to watched on YouTube, and to be quite honest, it's been such a bad week I have not watched a lot again, but I'll read out as quickly as I can stuff that I think is important. And as you know, there are 2 things that I watch right at the top. The rest is all free for all. You know what I mean? So the 2 that I watch regularly are This Week in Retro and Techmo. This Week in Retro was quite a good week this week, although I feel I'm a little bit ahead of the game, because the very first thing they talked about was Nightmare, the TV series, a retrospective, and I talked about that before they did. So I was a week ahead of the game on that one. But then they talked about a topic called the end of gaming consoles, which was very interesting. And then another one which I know so much about, but I listened to it anyway, which was what caused the red ring of death on the Xbox 360 console. The amount of red ring of death machines Kelly fixed, a friend of mine, and I fixed with that horrible X clamp and metal chassis the Xbox 360 had. Doomed to failure, the design, and it only got worse with the Slim. That being said, it wasn't the first time they were in trouble, but they've been much more stable with the other Xboxes, the Xbox One, the Xbox X, etc., etc. They've learnt their lesson. I don't knock those machines because they were ahead of their time, I think. The Xbox 360 was great. It was up against the PlayStation 3. You've got the power of Sony behind you, and you're a company that's equally large, but not been in the gaming industry that long. From a console hardware point of view, not from a software point of view. They'd been around with flight simulators from the late 70s, early 80s, and text adventures and so forth. So it made sense that they came out with a console, and the 360 was a pioneer. I love the Xbox, the original Xbox. It's why I didn't have a PS2. Which seems weird when you think about it, because you'd think as a gaming person like me, I'd have had a PS2, but I had an Xbox because it was a PC, I was able to do so much with it. I hacked that to death. It became my media center. It became an emulation device. It became all of the stuff that the PS2 couldn't at the time, without a heck of a lot of stuff. So that's a brilliant show to watch this week in Retro. And Techmoan talked about the tape recorder used in the TV series Mission Impossible, and it's part 3, so the 2 other parts to it. So this one was the Concorde F20, which was used in 7 episodes. And he talked about it on how much it was, how much it cost, what its marketing was, its development, and then its ultimate demise. Brilliant. Can't wish for anything else. I didn't know he'd done the other 2, so I went back and watched those. Equally great. Brilliant. As a 3-part series, it was really, really good to watch. Other stuff I've watched, which I've only watched what I can because I've been with my mother an awful lot. So there's Worth a Buy / Denny. And the reason I mentioned Denny there is he recommended at the end of my live stream a game called Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. And he said, everybody's playing this game. You ought to get it. It's like Vampire Survivors. And I went, Vampire Survivors? Oh, trying to move away from those, Denny. But go on, you've piqued my interest. Oh, go and have a look. Everybody's playing it. So I opened up Steam while we were doing the live stream at the end. And I went, oh, yeah, look, mostly positive. Oh, it looks glossy. And he goes, yeah, everybody's playing it. I went, right, you bastard. I'm off tomorrow. I'll buy it. So I bought it there and then. And after playing it for, 2-3 hours, I went to see if there's any reviews. And, of course, there's a very fun one under Worth a Buy, which is why I've mentioned Worth a Buy, Denny, in the same context there. Do sub to Denny. Do sub to Worth a Buy if you want. Worth a Buy is just an amusing, fun person to watch the odd review on. When he comes across a game that really pisses him off, he's very funny. So there's a one called Pal World out at the moment. He went ballistic on that game. Pal World. Watch that video. Oh my God. Next thing I watched, Movie Collector. The reason I watch Movie Collector is because I like to learn a little bit about how projectors and how films came out and whether the transfer is good, because his knowledge of ratios, how things come onto the screen, how this film's stock footage wouldn't allow it to look any better than it does is great. But he did this time, he went back to HMV in Oxford Street. That's the original HMV shop. Because they'd reopened and rebadged HMV, and he did a video going all around the store where the 4K section was, where the Blu-ray section is, where the vinyl section is, and yeah, looks great. I'm so glad that they've brought it back. The high street need shops like that. The thing I have a problem with HMV is generally they're not that pro physical media. You go into the HMV in Banbury and it looks just like it did in the 80s, and it's all higgledy-piggledy. Certain stuff they really are pushing are at the ends of the stuff. It's and of course costs more than the website version does, which you can order online and have sent to you. So they need a few more sales or a way of using internet prices in their shop, which will never happen because they've got the electricity and gas bill to pay, plus the people that are helping you around the store, the shop fillers, all of that. So yeah, then we move on to Dan Monroe, who's also called Movies, Music and Monsters. And he piqued my interest the other week when we were talking about, what was it? Planet of the Apes. He did an episode in the last couple of weeks called Whatever Happened to the Original King Kong? So apparently there were 2 models made of King Kong, one called Roundface, one called Longface. I believe the one called Roundface is now in a private collector, but the one called Longface is with Peter Jackson, who did the King Kong remake in the 2000s. But it's very interesting. You learn about what the mechanics of it was, how it was done, and what happened. as they've reissued the film, where the hardware, for these puppets, these models ended up. So that was great. Definitely worth a watch. And then Gem Mint Collectibles, I was telling you about, I nearly got caught up with buying a statue. He brought out another one from Sideshow called Spider-Man Noir, which is the Spider-Man of the past, where he's dressed up a little bit like a black suited cowboy. Got a hat, sort of like World War II goggles on, the Spider mask. Totally different origin, really, to the Spider-Man story. So it's really sort of like a 1920s, 30s Spider-Man. What would happen if Spider-Man was around in the 1920s and 30s? So there would be no web shooters and all of that sort of stuff. The chemicals wouldn't be there. So, yeah, that was worth a watch because the statue was gorgeous. But I haven't got $710, so I went away from that. And then we come to my mates on the film side of things. We've got Rock God, Ian Hill, The Ramblings, Euphoria Pictures, Sammy G, Scott the Movie Critic as standard. So Rock God, definitely worth a watch this week. I think most people know now, Nige and me, we're of a similar age. We conflict over a little bits. He hates science fiction. I'm learning horror. I'm a bit more probably open, I would have said. But I totally get his stance on it. Why be forced to watch something because people ask you questions on it? No. If you don't like something, don't ask him the question on it, But we all want to portray our own thoughts into people, like, I saw Aliens and I think you'd really enjoy it. I know you don't like science fiction, but give this one a go. You either want to or you don't. So salute to my friend Rock God, because he weathers that storm every week. And it's very difficult to come across with the laughing persona that he always gives when you've got those questions coming at you all the time, because it's like, oh, please, can we have a horror question? Can we have a comedy question? Can we have a science fiction? Ask the others. Don't come to me. Don't know enough. Me, I'm learning a little bit about horror. I mean, I've known a lot about it, but I'm not to the level of Nigel. So he's done this week his video nasties called Section 2, Part 1. The reason we call it Section 2 is that there were 3 sections to video nasties. The top tier got prosecuted. Second tier got prosecuted, but they were waived. And the third were all in the very first banned list, but got demoted and now are not considered really banned anymore. So there are a huge amount of films in the Section 3. Section 2 consists of, I think, 60 something. Section 1 is about 30 something. So he's got obviously a big job to do when it called Part 1 and Part 2. Even Evil Dead was in Part 2 of in Section 2 of the Video Nasty list. But I don't want to say any more about it because I want you to watch his channel. So knowledgeable, such a nice guy. He had a couple of Prezi unboxings, always deserving of those he is. Don't know who sent those. And he did an Iron Maiden picture disc, which was an unofficial one. So if you're into your heavy metal and you're into your soundtracks and you're into horror and you're into just having fun and learning with fun, watch that channel. Ian Hill, similar thing. Totally different stance, more a ramble, more a personal thing, going through his life and explaining to you all the things that he loved in regards to music, in regards to TV, films, directors, and then he'll do top 10 lists like a lot of people do, and he even does episode reviews, just a singular episode of something. So at the moment he's in the middle of X-Files. I think he's up to episode 8 or something. That's of season 1. There are 22 episodes per season and 10 or 11 seasons. He's going to, I take it like this. If I was to start it, I'd be in my 90s, I think, by the time we get to the end. So, you know, it's a work of passion. So watch that. Euphoria Pictures. You know, every week I push him. He's a great bloke over in Ireland. What a movie collector. And how knowledgeable is this guy? He's got busts. He's got merchandise. Films in DVD, Blu-ray, 4K. He gets stuff, you know, like sent to him as a subscriber mail. Don't like that word, subscriber mail. I call them gifts. That's what they are as far as I'm concerned. And some people will do that because they want to know what your opinion is or something. And some people will do it because they know that they'll get enjoyment out of it. I only ever send a gift to somebody that A, deserves it, B, is a mate, C, I think will enjoy it. And possibly wouldn't buy it if they saw it on the shelf themselves. That's another reason. Euphoria Pictures. Been around for a while. Definitely one you subscribe to and watch, right, each week, because every week he's got stuff coming in. And you really, really do, as a person like me that buys, needs to know, is it worth buying? And where's the cheapest place you can buy it from? And he's not backwards at coming forwards in regards to telling you where that is. So, you know, you just got to hand clap the guy. Do you know what I mean? I had the great pleasure of helping him earlier this year. Great pleasure of doing that. I speak to him on occasion on the phone. I will eventually get to speak to him again on a chat basis. I'm sure at some point, and we'll have immense fun. Trouble with those is I always find that time runs out, and there'll be a question that I wanted to ask him and I forgot. You know what I mean? I'm terrible. My brain's scattered. Last two, Scott, the movie critic, did his Friday chat. Fantastic panel this week. I had to watch it on a recap yesterday because my mother wasn't very well. I'm a big supporter of his. I think the reason that his works so well is he's got this nice family, but he brings on a guest. Trouble is, everybody wants that guest slot. But he takes control. You can go to certain other film ones, right? And you've got to bounce around with the questions because some people start their questions off before the stream even starts. So if you go from start to finish and you go in an order, which is brilliant to do, by the way, it turns into a 6-hour marathon, and it can just continue and continue and continue, depending on how many people are watching. But you've also got to have the ability to say everybody must, if that's ask a question, must get that question out. It's not fair that they came in late, is at the bottom, and they never get their point across. Scott does that very well. That's where he has an edge. There's not only that, but it's like I said, it's the ensemble. You've got to have fun. If you don't go on there with a happy face, you'll stick out like a sore thumb. If you go in there because you've got a certain bit of information, but the question never comes out to relay that information, then basically you're not going to have a fun time. You've got to have that open ability to be able to adapt fast, and I do mean fast, right? And don't get despondent because you see two people enjoying something and you're not, because you can't join in. You'd like to be as funny as them, but you can't. I'm not funny. I don't consider myself funny. I don't try and cause arguments, and I certainly don't try and battle someone like to get the last word in. No point. I would lose every time, right? But it's not about that. It's, to me, why is it a competition in the first place? not a competition. You're being, aren't you being yourself? That's the thing. So when you try and be funny and you're not a funny, it's not instantly funny, you're pushing yourself and you come across wrong. I suppose is the word. Just enjoy it for what it is. I obviously feel I'm under pressure when I go on Scott's channel. Because I tend to find that all the other weeks I've watched, they're having so much fun than when I was on. But saying that, that's my own fault. You got to work your own problems out there. Because as long as they made you feel welcome, then the issues are yours. And the last one is Sammy G, who I've been promoting since he started. He's now up to, I think, about 170 odd subscribers. He's very close to what I am, and he's done that in a month. You've got to commend that. He started to do his soundtracks now. I've given him, I hope, some advice. I love soundtracks. And I've got my own way that I'm going to do my own soundtracks. Trouble is, with mine, my records are in storage and my CDs are here. But CDs are really out of favour. People don't really want to know too much about CDs, which is a shame because they're as rare as vinyl. But when it comes to vinyl, I tend to find I don't need to see every vinyl record pulled out of its case to see it, just because you want to show it's in immaculate condition. I just take it is. If it's got an unusual label, fine. But most of the vinyls are just manufactured with a printed label similar to the cover. Or you might be interested in knowing what the old CBS or KTEL symbol looked like, which is fine. But to do every single one, yeah. And if it's a different colour, then it's worth it. If you've bought this is a limited edition vinyl and it's in blue, I get it. Black, standard, don't need that. So I gave some advice there saying, you don't have to show some, but don't have to show them all. You know what I mean? The other thing is that when you're talking about soundtracks, they used to be split into two, right? You used to have the songs, which is just the songs that were in the film. And then you had the score by the composer. Right? And they used to be separate. Less so these days. They used to call them suites. You used to have a music suite on the songs one, which was a quick 5-minute merging of certain tracks from the score album. If there was a score album, remember a soundtrack sometimes was just the songs because that's the only thing that they thought would sell. We've learnt so much these days. So I literally sort of gave a bit of advice to Sam, and I hope he took it. And I hope he took it the right way. That it's all very well and good having an album of something, but sometimes you need to have the album and the CD. There are no end of CDs that I've got of what they call the expanded score. Now, I love my original vinyl record of the score, but the expanded one has got all the tracks that you can't get on vinyl. Equally as nice, equally as a want to have. And so therefore, what you're doing by promoting just the vinyl is cutting your nose to spite your face. So I like to know sometimes how that score fits into the film. Sometimes I want to know, is all the score there? Sometimes I want to know if the newer version has been out. I think it's a great opportunity for that channel to grow by telling you this is out of print and you can get a remaster of it and it's equally as good or worth the money, or no, go and buy the second-hand one, it's much better quality, etc. If you go down that avenue. I'll give you a perfect example. I've got a vinyl of A Clockwork Orange. No, Sammy hasn't done A Clockwork Orange. I know that score was cut to shreds. It was a synth score. very experimental, using Moog synthesizers, and the main score of it you can only buy on CD, and you can only buy it from the website of the composer. Okay, so the vinyl record is great, but it's got hardly any tracks on it, and that means that the vinyl is a great vinyl to have, and it's worth some money. But if you're a filmy and a soundtrack person and you want to have all of the music, you've got to mention the other place to get the score. Unless, of course, the channel is just to show off your collection. Oh, here's what I've got. Bugger everybody else. And whenever I'm doing my stuff, I'm always going, this is what I've got. But there's more out there. You know, there is literally loads. You know, steelbooks. I'm sure I've shown you, I bought this cover, but I didn't buy this cover, you know, etc., etc. So I hope I gave a little bit of an insight. Sammy is such a likable person, so knowledgeable, so infectious. Go sub him immediately, because, I mean, obviously his channel is going to grow and grow and grow. Be there at the beginning. And then we get to your YouTube, which is all my mates on the computer side of things. They've got their own channel that deserve a mention. And then we've got my mate down the rabbit hole. He did a couple of videos this week. He did his D&D Star Frontiers, another one, which I love to watch, but I'm not that engaged because I didn't do too much D&D. But he did what most people need to know, and that is, what were the worst module books to buy for playing Star Frontiers? And he mentioned a couple, 2001, 2010. The modules were very important because they set the scenarios for you to play D&D. So there were loads of them. They all had their own rule sets and all sorts. So that's interesting if you're into D&D. The second one, I have a big acceptance of where he's gone, right? But have my own opinion. What am I talking about? What am I mumbling about? We're talking about the channel that the video he called Why I Bought a PSVR2 1 year later. Now, if anybody who's been watching my blogs will know that Keith asked me a few things about my Meta Free. Here we go, my Meta Free, which I go on about once a week. Maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more. Because, I mean, that thing's far superior to my old one, which is down here. There. My Quest 2. But he decided to get one, and he decided to advise why he bought one 1 year late, and he gave his decided reasons for it. And some of those reasons I sort of disagree with, but that's what makes a good video, right? If somebody has got wants to relay, hey, this is this product, this is what it is, and this is the reason why I bought it, and that's the reason why I spent the money, then brilliant. You know what I mean? I did the same with my Quest 3. Some things, though, are of their own personal opinion. So one of the opinions that I don't totally agree with is he said Ubisoft will not be continuing their next set of games for the Quest 3 because it didn't sell in as many numbers as they'd have hoped and liked, which is not quite true. Ubisoft has said they're not putting any money into VR because Assassin's Creed Nexus, which was only on the Quest 3 and Quest 2, didn't sell as many numbers as they hoped. What you have to look at with Ubisoft is Ubisoft have got this ground of doing this. They have high expectations and then get pissed off when they don't come to fruition. Assassin's Creed is not for everybody. I've played Assassin's Creed and I quite like them, but they are very, very similar. And when you get to another one that's in VR, you go, oh, I'm a bit intrigued. But if you don't like Assassin's Creed, you ain't going to buy it. right? And certain people buy a VR headset because they like Angry Birds, or they like a role-playing game, or they like a actiony game, or they like the modern way of doing something like boxing, exercise, all of that sort of stuff, right? So Ubisoft to have the expectation that everybody that bought a Quest 3 was going to buy Assassin's Creed is nonsense. It's the headset alone is just under £500, and therefore you haven't got a lot of money, right? And this game is $34.99, so it's a lot of money, right? So unless you've got the cash to buy the thing in and the game at the same time, you tend to find you got to wait a couple of months before you can afford it. By then it's in a sale, because the way things work, sales these days, your game's in a sale within a month. Then you had it out a month, then a sale. That's how it works. It's a bit ridiculous, really. So Ubisoft are not putting money into VR, not the MetaQuest 3 version. So that was the first thing. The other thing is, which I totally get, is how you log into a Quest 3, because you open a Meta account, and Meta is owned by Facebook. The thing about that is things have changed a little bit with the Quest 3. You open a Meta account, but it doesn't have to be linked to Facebook. And my logging in is just through Meta 3. I learned the hard way about what happened to our mutual friend Al Mainmeister, in the fact that you link the account. If your Facebook got hacked, you lost your Meta account. You couldn't get into your Meta games, and that means you lost everything, right? That was happening far too many times that they split it up again. And so now you have to have a Meta account. The thing is, just like he was saying, and this is desperately true, is that the staple point of what Facebook is in the Bible of what Meta is. So in other words, do you want a camera in your home that Meta can use? Is definitely a no-no, because if you know what they do with Facebook data. But the downside of that is that Sony do the same. You've got a camera in your home under the Sony bandwagon, and Sony are just about their physical media side of Sony, Columbia and all that, are about to be bought by Disney, which means Disney will own them, a part of it, the entertainment side, not the Sony corporation. How long is it going to be before Sony is a Disney company? And then does Disney, what are they going to do with your data? You know what I mean? You can have that thought in your head right now and go, I ain't doing it. But eventually that's probably where we're going to end up. And I look at it like this. If you protect yourself, it's fine. If you want to watch what I'm playing, do so. Because when I do, I'm in a room, not in this room either. It's a spacious room in the living room. And all you see in there is a telly, a mantelpiece, a table, and a settee. You want to take a picture of that? Do so. You know what I mean? I've got no problems with it. You know? Logging into my account and getting my personal information, another thing. And that's where I'm going, it's not a hard line. It's a soft line, and it's where you want to go with it. So it's where I respect Down the Rabbit Hole's decision. But for me, I'd have bought the PSVR 2. If you've waited a year, I'd have waited another year. And the reason for that is price. Now, they're saying that they're renewing their output for VR, Sony. Wait and see. I don't see it. There's going to be some more. There's going to be higher AAA titles. That's what you're definitely going to get on the PSVR 2 side of things. That's for definite, right? But you're not going to get all the little ones, because they are developing mostly for the Meta and the Steam and Valve VR and the Apple VR, which has just come out. Those hook up to PCs and Macs and all of that sort of stuff, and therefore have a little bit more flexibility. The thing I bought my Quest 3 is for none of all those reasons. It was the fact that it was standalone. Didn't have to hook to anything. In fact, I don't have to have a computer or anything around. As long as I've got a Wi-Fi, I'm all right. Because everything's built into the headpiece. I can watch films from it on the headpiece because it's got a memory slot in it, a certain amount of RAM. The PSVR 2 is very much stuck in its PS5 environment. Although I have heard that this year, the PS5 VR headset is going to hook up to a PC. And it's therefore going to have games on that. That's not going to work too well either unless you've got a high enough PC, because you'll need a graphic card that's VR compatible. And Sony's PlayStation 5 has got a hybrid processor chip and graphic chip inside it. So how that's going to work, I don't know. Down the rabbit hole. Can't recommend him enough. Such a great guy, such a nice guy. Like I say, we can be friends and argue a toss on something as much as we need to. I'd love a PSVR 2. Take it like this. I'm dead jealous. Yeah, I will turn around and say it. I'm jealous. I'd love a PSVR 2. I'm not jealous over its price, and I'm not jealous about me not owning one. It's just it's nice to have. You know what I mean? I just want tech, right? Given at me. Anybody wants to buy me a VR headset, send it. You know what I mean? Only joking, by the way. That's tongue in cheek. Moving on to Robert's Retro Gaming, a very, very busy week as well for Robert. He's done his Minecraft, episode 106 and 107, Euphoria, part 24, Dark Matter, part 6, 8-bit reviews. He's done a Commodore 64, Forbidden Forest, after doing the Atari one. And I think he came to the conclusion, yeah, the 64 version's better, isn't it? Too damn right it is. Yes. He did Repton, Countdown, Up, Up and Away. Like I said, every day is a new day for Robert and a new bit of content. Wish I could do it as much as he does. Dead jealous of you, matey. But if there was anybody to sub, it's the royalty that is Robert's Retro Gaming. Then we moved to Ponder. Ponder, fantastic. He did a blog this week, up to 65. He's got some nice things to say, some rants to get in, some words of warning on how to do things as well. Like ordering through Royal Mail and what you can expect and some of the things that are going on at the moment. Definitely fills his blog with just what he wants to portray, which I wish I could do, because I'm 2 hours into this now? I haven't done hardly anything. Brilliant blog. Go and subscribe to him. The last two, LFC Gamer and Vlogs. Lovely to have LFC back. He talked a little bit about the rants of YouTube, which I thought was very strong and opinionated and great to have somebody stick their hands up and go, YouTube, what the hell are you doing? Because we've had so many now comments go missing and that sort of stuff that it needs to be said. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Are you putting a gag on us? To stop us saying things that you don't want to hear. Go watch that. And then, of course, we got Mainmeister. And what can we say about Mainmeister? He had a fantastic week this week. We were down to do a recording ourselves, but it didn't happen this week. I'm hoping that might get picked up. But he did a Commodore 64 demo of something called Wonderland 13, which is brilliant. All these demos, they are all... you'd never see them like that back in the day. They look great. His Sunday stream was new Commodore 64 games, which was an immediate success. Once you'd got your PC or your Mister or whatever it is set up, it's so seamless and you're seeing new stuff. Everybody, I think, was going, wow, that looks great. If that's promoted some of those games, fantastic. And then his Friday Waffle this week was an interview with Andy Walker, who I had the pleasure of speaking to during the charity stream. I managed to get a question in. I think I had to watch again on recap because my mother's not very well. But some cracking questions were asked, some brilliant answers came out. Always nice when Al gives us a bit of a surprise by having someone of such stature as Andy Walker, come on, and talk about his days at Taskset. We all have great respect for certain games in there. Super Pipeline 1 and 2, Poster Paster, Gyropod, Seaside Special. I can, the for a particular period of time in the Commodore 64's history, you couldn't ignore Taskset. And that's the end of that, of the first year. My God, we are now pushing things now. I'll have to go quickly through these. This is what I've bought this week, just very, very quickly. All steel books, all done on the new cam. Finally, after 4 months, WandaVision season 1 has come through on Steelbook. That's taken 4 months. I've had all of the others, Prey and some of the other Marvel stuff come through, bar this one. Don't know why this one took so long. It's been available in America for ages. The new film The Marvels is out. I was talking about that I think a little bit earlier. We'll see whether that's a good film or not. It's there because it's a steelbook and because it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It goes with all of my other stuff. I've heard bad things, but I might get some enjoyment out of it. So there we go. This is a lovely looking steelbook of a film that I liked the first couple but fell out with, and that was The Hunger Games. It's a gorgeous steelbook. You can see it's just glossy, lovely. It follows suit round the back. You can see lovely blues there. I will report back on whether I enjoy this one or not. It's called The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So looking forward to that one. Another one that's taken a bloody age to come through is my steelbook remastering of Avatar. Why? These have been available in America for ages. I ordered this at the same time as Avatar 2. Those came through within a month, and this is 4 months later. Why? No idea. It's been available for absolutely ages. The last two, Doctor Who, The Daleks in Colour, which is the William Hartnell very first Dalek story, colourised and shortened. So the original Doctor Who and the Daleks was 7 episodes and in black and white in 1963. This is colourised, cut down to 76 minutes. 76 minutes. Now, I do know that there was a lot of padding in a Doctor Who story back then. But you do the maths. 7 times 22, cut down to 76 minutes. It works, but the way that they padded it to show what happened in the bits that they cut out was very disco-y. I don't know, it's weird. I didn't get on with it. As a 60th anniversary, I think Doctor Who has not had what it deserves for a 60th anniversary. I think they got it right with the 50th anniversary. The 60th anniversary of having some specials, a new Doctor come in, and this one colourised episode, colourised story is not really showing Doctor Who much love to people that have followed it for that many years. That's all I'm saying on that. But I did watch it when it was broadcast on TV and got immense pleasure out of watching Doctor Who and the Daleks in colour. Brilliant. And then we've got Five Nights at Freddy's. You'll probably mention that I talked about Five Nights at Freddy's when it was at the cinema. There was this audio track that I've still got in my head now, which is brilliant. I've heard okayish things, mixed things about this, so time will tell. So we'll now quickly go to the media playback because I need to get some trailers through. And hopefully that will end the stream, and I won't have overrun too much. But it is the very first episode of my 3rd year, and I had a lot to get off my chest at the very beginning. So I hope you found some enjoyment. I also hope that all of these trailers do not get a copyright strike that stopped me from getting this out. If it is, you're watching this very, very late, and I do apologise. So I'm going to shut up now and put the trailers on. Hopefully you get some brilliant enjoyment out of watching these trailers. These are films definitely I've watched this week. Some of them are part of those ones that I've bought, but I've watched these ones. So I'll catch you on the flip side of this.
Carol Danvers, prodigal child of the Milky Way.
Nick Fury, my favorite one-eyed man of intrigue.
How goes it out there?
You know, cold, no air, space.
Captain Marvel, the Annihilator. You took everything from me. And now I'm returning the favor.
What is happening to me?
She's entangled our light-based powers, so we switch places whenever we use them.
Strong theory.
You can absorb light. I can see it. And Kamala,
Who's Kamala? Hi.
she can turn light into physical matter, which I have never heard of.
I could totally show you.
No!
She's targeting every planet we call home. I would never choose to bring anybody into this.
You are not the only thing standing between this and the universe.
Oh my god, we're a team.
Higher.
Further. Faster.
Who's a good kitty goose?
I can't. Can you?
I got it.
Mommy's going to the beauty parlor, darling. But I'm leaving you with your favorite friend, Roger. He's going to take very, very good care of you. Because if he doesn't, he's going back to the science lab.
Cut! What the hell is wrong with that take? Nothing with you, baby Herman. You were great. You were perfect. You were better than perfect. Just Roger. He keeps blowing his lines. Roger, what's this? A tweeting bird? Tweeting bird? Roger, read the script. Look what it says. It says rabbit gets clunked. Rabbit sees stars. Not birds. Stars! Can we lose the playback, please? You're killing me, killing me. For crying out loud, Roger. How many times do we have to do this damn scene? Raoul, I'll be in my trailer. Taking a nap. Excuse me,
Please, Raoul, I can give you stars. Just drop the refrigerator in my head one more time.
Roger, I got on your head 23 times already.
I can take it. Don't worry about me.
I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about the refrigerator.
This is the tale of an up-and-coming movie star named Roger Rabbit and a down-and-out private detective named Eddie Valiant.
Ooga booga.
Every moment they were together was a new adventure in trouble.
Hide me, Eddie. Please.
It's a motion picture about friendship,
Take it easy. Please, Eddie. Don't tell me out. You're making a big mistake.
love, compassion, passion.
Well, I'm sorry I yanked your ears.
All the time you yanked my ears?
Murder.
Marvin Acme. The rabbit cacked him last night.
Remember, you never saw me.
Sex.
I'd do anything for my husband, Mr. Valiant. Anything.
And violence.
Tunes gets him every time.
You wouldn't have any idea where the rabbit might be?
Got a thing for rabbits, huh?
The whole thing stinks like yesterday's diapers.
It's a comedy a little different from all the rest.
I'm a pig! I'm a tune.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
But tell me, Eddie, is that a rabbit in your pocket or you just happy to see me?
Touchstone Pictures and Steven Spielberg present a Robert Zemeckis film.
We tunes may act idiotic, but we're not stupid.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
In a mining town on the second moon of Jupiter, something deadly is happening.
Pretty soon they'll see that this is just like every other mining town. I work these people hard, and I let them play hard. There's never much trouble. We're all professionals.
I'm sure we are. We've only been here 2 weeks. It'll get better, I promise.
I got nothing more on that incident in the mine yesterday. It looks like some guy just went wacko.
It happens here.
How often?
I don't know. It just happens here.
Why?
I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't tell you why. Some people just can't take it here after a while.
What's that guy think he's doing? No way it could have been homicide. Had to have been a suicide.
28 in the last 6 months.
Did you do autopsy?
No.
Then how do you know it was a suicide? There's no other explanation.
When a person exposes himself to zero pressure atmosphere, there isn't a whole lot left to inspect.
Something's there, isn't it?
Maybe.
Try and meddle, I want you to know what you're meddling with. How do you lead? We're dealing with grown-ups here.
Bingo.
Marshall, you're dead.
If you're the kind of guy you're supposed to be, you wouldn't stick around. That's why they sent you here.
Maybe they made a mistake. Outland, the ultimate enemy, is still man.
These brave Americans have traveled all the way to Europe to visit a genuine haunted castle.
Castle Bucket! We can promise you ghouls of all descriptions.
There are no bloomin' ghosts here.
But there will be. We'll invent them.
Their host doesn't want them disappointed.
This is the most pitiful supernatural sham that I've ever encountered. We'll get better, I do assure you.
But when you fake a haunting, the real ghosts get mad.
We're going to give those Americans exactly what they came here for.
What is going on here?
Now they're out of the closet.
You're real. You're a real ghost.
Love is in the air. And Jack's just dreamy enough to imagine life with a ghost.
Jack, is that you? There's a man in my bathtub!
That's Martin.
Who's Martin?
He's a ghost. He
Jack.
murders his wife every night. Other than that, I think he's pretty harmless.
Daryl Hannah.
If you loved me, the miracle could happen.
Peter O'Toole.
Sorry, Peter.
Beverly D'Angelo.
You threw me over this? I mean, I knew you liked passive women, Jack, but she's half dead. I hope she has a great personality because this hurts.
Steve Gutenberg.
I know looks aren't everything.
I'm in here, Jack.
It's just that they can help so much when you...
There's nothing like a vacation to give your spirits a lift. High spirits.
That ended there a bit quick. I don't know why. It might have been something to do with a codec. I'll have to check that out. Anyway, a selection there. There was one other one to show, but I can show that next week. It's an obscure one that many people might enjoy. This one overran. I do apologise, but it is episode 1, year 3. So take it as a bumper release. Hopefully there's some enjoyment out of this. I love doing the trailers. I'm going to expand on those other ideas I talked about. And I'm going to move forward going into spring with a totally new front sight of how to look at things. I think that's what this next year is going to show. You're going to see a different me, a different outgoing output, mindset, etc., etc. And with that, I'm going to say salute. Thank you for being my friends. I do hope you enjoyed this, and roll on next week for maybe a bit shorter block. And with that, salute and bye-bye.